Hello everyone, David Aguzzi here from the BJJ Talk. Today's episode is going to talk about sponsorship. Sponsorship is very interesting. Sponsorship is when someone goes to a company or a brand and asks them for either free gear or financial support in return for reach and potential sales from that competitor's statistics, basically, or traffic sources. So what I mean by this is the athlete or the promotion is always looking for either financial support or gear. A lot of competitors cut themselves short by not looking for money. They only want gis, they only want rash guards to train with. On the other side, the company that is sponsoring the athlete or the promotion is looking for a return in advertising to a certain number of stats like impressions, click-through rates, conversions, sales, and they're also looking for sales itself. So I believe in a basic theory in sponsorship, which is if I as a sponsor give you $100, you as someone getting $100 from me needs to make me back $200 without you spending any. So how do you do that? This means that you have to, as an athlete or as someone like I am, a jiu-jitsu tournament promoter, what we need to do is we need to look at the value of our assets. What I mean by value of our assets, for a competitor, for example, it would be his social media reach. If he has a blog, it would be his blog reach. It would be, if he's a very big name competitor, it would be the patch space on his gi or his shorts, or it would be just him constantly posting and advertising the company that is sponsoring him. Whereas a tournament also has a lot of different values where you can brand more by putting your logos on barricades, by putting your logos on the mats, by being on the poster, by having naming rights to the show where it's like this show is presented by this sponsor. So basically there needs to be an exchange. Sponsorship is a transaction. How do you get sponsors then? The first thing I have to advise you on how to get sponsors is this. The first thing you should do is sit down at a computer and devise a spreadsheet of all the assets you bring to the table to sponsors. So as an event promoter myself, I've devised an asset value list of everywhere a company can sponsor or brand within our tournament, from the posters to the mats to the barricades to even being on t-shirts or medals or anything like that. As a competitor, you have to do the same thing. You have to find out who or how many people are clicking on your posts, how many people are reading your posts, how many tournaments are you entering a year, and what exactly do you want in exchange. A lot of sponsors are very much the same way. They're encountered every single day by emails being told, we want this and this. We want you to sponsor us, we want a bunch of gis. We want you to sponsor us, we want a couple $1,000s. But what sponsors really want from you is sponsors want to be told, what is it that you can do for them? Basically, being a sponsored athlete or a sponsored event means that you are almost like an employee for that company, off the books, almost. There's still taxes you have to pay on sponsorship fees and stuff like this, but I mean, when you're sponsored, you are almost like an employee now. They're paying you a salary, or they're paying you a sum of money, or even gear if you settled for that swag type of deal. In return, you have to make them the sales back, or else they won't sponsor you. Why would a company give you $1,000 if they're not going to make $1,000 back worth of sales, plus advertising, plus extra money to make a profit on that investment? Companies are not interested in investing their money in competitors and saying, I'll give a competitor $1,000. If that company is never going to see that $1,000 back, it makes much more sense to invest that $1,000 on Wall Street or in somewhere else than in a competitor if he's not going to advertise you, if he's not going to fill his obligations. Obligations is a very huge important part of the whole sponsorship kind of deal. This obligations should always be written in a contract between sponsor and company. The obligations state basically what that company is giving you as far as financial support, gear, and how often or when these transactions are made. It also states what you have to give the sponsor. This is something that you should devise yourself. A basic list of obligations of what you can give that sponsor. If you go up to a sponsor and you tell the sponsor, look, I can make you this much sales if you invest this much into me, it's much more interesting to a sponsor than if you came up to them and said, look, I'm looking for a sponsor, I'm looking for this and this. You're not telling the sponsor what they can make out of that deal. Why should that sponsor invest if there is no return? If money is very much like soldiers, Daniel O'Leary says, when you send your soldiers out, you really want them to come back home at the end of the day. So in that theory, when you're spending money on different athletes or different shows, that company's going to want to see their returns and they're going to want to see profits so they can continue to do so. You as an athlete should really want to complete the obligations they've asked. So if they're saying that they want 5 posts a week, then you have to give 5 posts a week. And if they want a video with their ad on it, you have to give them a video with an ad on it. This is stuff that people don't understand. It's not about if a sponsor says, I'll sponsor you, you can't just wear their patch and wear their clothes and that's the end of the deal. It's not how it works. You need to actually bring them back what they spent to even give you that gear. So basically the first thing you have to do is you have to look at yourself. What is it that you can offer a sponsor? The second thing you have to do is you have to devise, okay, what can I give this sponsor? This is what I'm worth. This is my reach. How can I translate that into conversions for that sponsor? Then you should find out all the sponsors that you feel that that you can relate to. Basically, this comes down to the idea of search and another theory that every type of sponsor relates to every type of individual. You can find a food sponsor because every person eats food, regardless of if it's jiu-jitsu or MMA or hockey or soccer or even business. Any field in the world, everyone eats, everyone wears shoes, everyone wears clothes, everyone uses an internet connection, everyone uses computers, everyone uses gas companies, everyone goes to grocery stores. So in this way, you have to search out which sponsors relate to you. Then you have to approach them. The best way to approach a sponsor is to find a contact at that sponsorship, at that place, that company that you're going to. If you can't find a contact, the best place is to call. If you call them and you can't get a hold of them, then the last resort is always email. But the best way is always across the phone. Everyone's trying to email them. The best way is to make yourself sound like you're worth something. Don't cut yourself short. Don't go looking. Don't go searching. But make it sound like you expect this. You basically expect yourself to get this sponsor. You make it sound like it's a great deal for them. A lot of people don't understand how this is all done, and in those cases, management might be better. You might find it easier for some to have a secretary, be it a guy or a girl. You might see it better to have a manager. You might see it better to have someone who takes care of the sponsorships of yourself or your company. I can tell you right now, I no longer handle the sponsorships for my company, the company that I'm part of. I was taking care of the sponsorships for a while with my business partner. Now we have someone who completely takes care of that by themselves. So it's really about the phase you're in. For a lot of people who are starting to look for sponsors, my best advice was exactly what I said. Find out what you're worth, find out what you can give them, and go up to the person that it matters to at that company and tell them. And make yourself sound great. And that's the basics of sponsorship. I hope you enjoyed this video.